All right, so there's our theme of the week, which is my favorite part of the show, and only a few people like it. But so last week, the theme was, and Brandon Batchelor got it. The theme was
I don't remember
the song from Worldwide Wrestling.
Oh yes.
So I just
because that's equally my favorite part of the show.
That was our theme from. So yeah, so that song I just played was the theme for this week, and Jimmy Phillips. We've raised the microphone. They're not that expensive. They're $35. So we got to kind of work around them. So he
25 years in broadcast.
Yeah,
I've never been critiqued.
No,
as much as I've been in the past 6 months since we started doing this.
It's the microphones. It's not microphones. Okay, let's knock this one out. All right, Joe Spano.
Mm-hmm.
Guys, I know Gary's your dad, but I think you are missing two key reasons why your dad never went to the WWF. And it's right from his book. Bruno had an issue with Gary from some stuff Pete Sanchez told Bruno that Gary allegedly said about him. This killed Gary. As Ivan Kolo's manager for the 1971 transitional title change, number 2, and around 1984, Gary was all set to go into WWF with talent whose name escapes me, but Jay Strongbow made sure Gary arrived at the arena late, and because of Strongbow's closeness to Vince and Gary's heat with Strongbow and Mr. Fuji, Gary decided to pass on WWE. Okay, fair enough.
That's that. There's nothing.
Good argument.
That's all. That all is very, very true. All those things are true statements. Now we'll work backwards here.
Can we tell? First of all, we were saying the reason why Dad never went to the WWF is just because Dad could not operate.
He could not fit in an atmosphere that was mainly showbiz and locker room lawyers and backstabbers and politicians, which is what all those guys you used to aforementioned were.
Okay, so
game
go ahead.
Players and everything else. In 1970, whatever the case, a guy named Pete Sanchez, who I never met and had no idea who he was until this story keeps coming up, had said allegedly something to Bruno Sammartino. The dad was overly critical of Bruno's work. Dad said something offhand about Bruno's work, which might Dad have said it? Yes. Wrestlers sometimes have a tendency, when they're not in the same territory with other guys, to knock each other. It happened. That used to happen all the time. So apparently Dad said something about Bruno. Maybe he did, maybe he didn't. I don't know if he did. I wasn't there. But it got back to Bruno. Well, Gary Hart put the knock on you. Now, George Steele had told Dad years later. Dad goes, yeah, I always had a problem in New York because of Bruno. And George Steele said, no, your biggest problem, your biggest detractor in New York was not Bruno. It was Jay Strongbow. And that stood to reason because Dad had fired Jay Strongbow in 1975 in Atlanta, Georgia, because Jay Strongbow was a bit of a clown. Now, guys like Mr. Fuji, also a bit of a clown and a rubber. And Dad really didn't, jive too well with those kind of guys anyway. Now, fast forward to 1994, 1995, Bruno Sammartino was on a talk show. I can't remember. It might have been before Fox became a network, but he was on a talk show. There was on a national talk show. And I'm 17 years old, so I know all about the Bruno thing. And Bruno's on the TV show with the lady talking. I said, to hell with this guy. And Dad went, son. I said, what? He goes, why are you mad at him? I said, well, he's a conniver. And Dad went, Bruno heard something that wasn't true. So I kind of dropped it with him. Now, fast forward to Jay Strongbow. Yeah, I'm sure he knocked Dad left, right, and sideways to Vince McMahon, but those things all happened. Yes, Dad had his detractors there, as Jim Ross had said. Bruno was a detractor of his also, apparently. But the underlying factor being my father liked to control the things that he could control. My father also liked to smoke marijuana, all things that you could do in the WWF if they weren't trying to get you. They would only send out the office stooges, which is another problem that Dad had, if they wanted to get you, because they had guys on the payroll who were long since outlived their usefulness in the ring, who would say, I think I smelled something coming from his room, or I think I saw that guy right. They only tested you if they wanted to get you. And it was that kind of environment, because when Dad got to the arena in St. Louis, the Keel, and then in Landover, Fuji walked up. He goes, hey, Gary, you got any of that stuff on? Just trying to rib him to get a rise out of him.
So
it just overall.
You want to land this bird?
No, what? No. That is all true, but the underlying factor being Vince controlled what he wanted to control and did what he wanted to do. He allowed they allowed ribs and things like that to go on in the dressing room because Vince figured, oh, if the wrestlers are all hot at each other, they'll take their eyes off of what I'm doing, like promising you one thing and then paying you another. But that's his right. That was his business. But also the locker room lawyers, the backstabbing. It just was not a fit there. The show business aspect, exposing the business. Dad was just never a fit. Though all those things you said was true, and thanks for reading the book.
Yeah, so it just Dad was not cut out for that company. So
because of things like you just mentioned.
Yeah, I was going to say something else, but so yeah, okay.
Thanks, Big Jim.
Good question. And again, if you got anything you don't agree with us, and also, wasn't Dad's? He had the job as Doinks in 1993.
And Jay Strombo came and hugged him when he was.
That's what I was going to ask. That's what I was going to ask.
Jackie Chan.
Yes. So in 1989.
Yeah, Strombo came over and hugged Dad because they were high on Kinji.
Mm-hmm.
And Dad was like, "This is odd. Strombo's hugging me." And Dad had talked to Bobby Heenan a couple times about it. And when it came time to how much money they'd make, Dad was like, "Oh, we're making way more than that here." And it just, because their mentality would have been, "Oh, we'll get him away from Gary, and we'll." I think they wanted Muta without wanting Dad, but they would have been, okay, let's use the green miss as a disqualification. Let's put him with Mr. Fuji. Let's circumvent him. And then also the Japanese office was involved in that because Muta never could think for himself. He would be up in the, whenever he'd be with us, every other word that came out of his mouth was Sakaguchi said. So that whole thing was
Okay, Joe, thanks for the question. Anything else? Anything? You got a question? Don't agree with us? Let us know. Okay. As we are running out of things to talk about,
Meanwhile, we went 30 minutes on one question.
Okay, Daniel Moore.
Hello.
Jason mentioned Glow.
Yes.
I love Glow. What was your dad's opinion of Glow? Did he think it was pretty silly? Because that's what I thought early 80s WWF was. But I'd like to know your dad's thoughts on Glow, if any. So Glow was the gorgeous ladies of women's wrestling.
Yes, Dad had no problem with it at all. And we didn't even. And we were staunch kayfabers.
Yeah.
And we could tell it didn't look. They did skits and things like that. But
it
wasn't. If you're. This is like back 1986, 1987. Yeah, it was. It would never. I think it used to follow Crockett's show here on a syndicated station.
Yeah, it was different. And it was done.
They didn't expose the business. Some of the stuff they did. If you didn't have a problem with the Slammy Awards, I don't see why you'd have a problem with Glow.
Yeah, I just remember. Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was fine.
As a 10-year-old boy, and there's hot girls out there. Particularly Hollywood and a few of the other ones. I didn't have a problem with it. It didn't bother me at all. Dad thought it was. Dad said, "Oh, that would be like, oh, this is cute."
Yeah, okay.
And those girls kayfabe too.
Thanks, Daniel. Random Wrestling Archive. Strange memory here, but I recall an angle your dad did in Global Wrestling Federation, where his assistant Sebastian got him to start wearing a toupee.
Oh, yeah.
Any recollection of this? And was it your dad's idea?
No, it wasn't Dad's idea, but thanks for opening up that wound. It was something to do with Dad was trying to get doing something to try to help the Youngbloods, Mark and Chris Youngblood at the time, and they were Indian, so we're going to go with the traditional Indian scalp. But how would we do that? So Dad and Gray Pearson and Sebastian, Dad didn't come up with it, but Gray Pearson was a pretty good divorce lawyer, got a lot of people a lot of money. He also had a toupee. So he had a toupee made for Dad. It had been nice. The toupee would look pretty good. I wish that he would have given us that money in cash as opposed to a toupee. And it was something about the Helsinki formula or something. Dad said, this will maybe help the kids if they scalp me. And so they pulled the rug off of Dad's head. When you could be having your guys doing jobs for Sting in front of the masses, you would rather be doing that. I didn't like it. I didn't like seeing my dad in that particular endeavor. I didn't like seeing my dad work with those people or for nothing against Mark and Chris or wrestlers kids like us, but I just didn't like. I really wish that I can see those tapes now of that. Like if Dad's with Rod Price, it's kind of cool because Rod is a cat that could have made it in big time, and he was with Booker T and Stevie Ray at the time too, and Scott Putchke. But I didn't.
How'd you mention Rod Price?
Stuff like that. I really didn't care for. And I could have found a way around it, but I just would prefer that stuff didn't exist. And Rod Price, he did have a toupee, and Chris Adams
We're about to
did
get in that. We're
rip
about
it
to
off
get in
one
that.
night. And I don't think that was a rib. That was just things got physical.
And what's funny is Dad's family in Indiana somehow or not. I guess it was on ESPN.
Mm-hmm.
The television show. So Dad was doing the thing with Sebastian. If I mean, I
Don't
think
go look at it.
yeah, I think 0.0000.
I'd rather look at Starcade '89 and look at that.
0.1% of the population even knows this. I don't even know if it's that big. So, anyways, so Dad's family thought Sebastian was you.
Yeah,
That's
thanks.
funny.
Appreciate that.
Yeah. So, anyways, thanks for Wrestling Archive. Okay, Rick Knight. Any thoughts on Rod Price?
Yeah.
Seemed like he was always getting a push, but never caught on. Also, there was Chris Adams' toupee. A lot of toupee questions this week.
I'm not wearing one. This is actually mine. I go with my stuff. Nikki Sixx may be wearing a rug, so is Axel. I'm not.
Also, there was Chris Adams' toupee ripping thing. What are your guys' thoughts? Real quick, my thought. I thought Rod Price was awesome.
Oh, I loved him. I thought Rod was great. He had played for.
But you go ahead.
He played for the Chargers and I think the Raiders. And I had he was running some independent show where he was using Bradshaw, JBL, at one of the shows. This is like back before John became the financial genius that he has become now, an all-around good guy, and podcaster. Check out his show with Jerry Briscoe. Free plug. Thank you. And I'm sure the check's coming. But I had walked up to Rod because I was about to go out for the football team. I was like a lot smaller than I am right now. I said, "What position should I go out for?" He goes, "How much water can you carry?" I goes, "Yeah, you big kid, or you." No, Rod was a great guy. He just and looked the part. Like he could have fought Kerry or Brody or Kevin or any of those guys, but he came along a little too late in the game and looked unbelievable, looked incredible. And was Steve Austin's partner also for a while too. But structure was kind of hard for him, and the corporate wrestling type thing really wasn't an environment that he could have really existed in. But a great guy, and I really came around. I mean, I remember in '93 when Dad had, put the kibosh on another return to WCW. Dad said, if things weren't the way they are in Atlanta,
here's a good
I'd
follow-up.
take Price with me.
Here's a good follow-up, real quick.
I love Rod.
Jay Strongbow was not in WCW, and Dad could not operate there. So, anyways, going back to the first question, back to Rod Price.
Yeah, great guy. And had he come around,
what were you saying? Something about '93? Dad put the kibosh on.
Dad was going to return to Atlanta,
right?
And I said, and then he said, "No, I don't think I want to do this." And then he said about Rod Price, he goes, if things weren't the way they are there,
yeah,
I would take Rod with me,
right? Because
Rod would have been a guy. Bill Watts would have loved Rod Price.
Yeah,
football player, great athlete, good, solid guy, but would have been better off in an earlier decade.
Yeah, Rod was a guy that, if the problem, he wasn't cut. No, I don't mean this in a bad way. He was not cut out for modern day wrestling, corporate wrestling. But you could have stuck Rod Price in any capacity. He could have been the main event of WrestleMania several years in a row, easy.
Yeah,
because Great American Bash. He could have went in there and fought the NWO. Rod Price could have
fought Goldberg.
He could have fought
Vader,
Goldberg,
Kerry,
all of them.
Brody. I mean, he just. It's sometimes guys come around at the wrong time.
There's, the airport test. Obviously, the airport test. I think you told me about it. But anyways, Rod was a guy like, this is a good test. Like, I remember being a little scared of him. Always a little scared of him. It's just something when somebody has that.
He's eating a glass bottle, I think.
I know. I'm just saying when someone has that, that's telling you something.
Yeah.
And he was always super, but you're always a little scared of him.
He's somebody that Uncle Mark.
People pick up on that.
I mean, if Dad and Uncle Mark and Brody could have had him.
Yeah. And so going back to Chris Adams ripping off his toupee. So Rod, when we first met Rod, he had blonde hair. He was the California stud.
California stud, rugged Rod Price.
Yeah, and he was he had a blonde toupee.
I couldn't tell. I didn't know.
Well, that was good toupee. But one night, Chris Adams, in a match, I believe, ripped it off his head.
But that was a work. I mean, it was a shoot, but it wasn't a rip.
I don't know, but I'm just saying, as a guy that's been grabbed by Chris, I mean, just somebody that, I remember.
That knew both of them?
Yeah. Like, Chris was so strong. Like, you could just tell, like, just when him just patting you on the back.
Yeah.
And I guess he just grabbed Rod's toupee to move him in the ring, and he ripped it
Because
off.
I mean, I wasn't there that night, but I knew several people who were there, and that shows you how tough Rod is. Because that has to hurt like hell because it was stitched in.
Yeah, ripped a toupee.
But it gave Rod a brand new look because he went with the bald pate for a while too. Look, had the Superstar Graham thing. If you're watching, Rod, hello.
Yeah. So Rod Price, awesome.
Open up a gym. I want to go to it.
He said, "Open up a gym." He wants to go to it.
Yeah.
Rod.
I want you to train me, make me the man I need to be.
One other cool thing about Rod Price is I was sitting in the dressing room one night, and I won't say his name. He was teasing me in a fun way. Not Rod, this other wrestler. He was kind of teasing me, kind of a little too much. And Rod stopped it. Rod was like, "Okay, drop it." Rod was a cool guy. So,
and whenever I dyed when I had long hair, I dyed it red. He kept calling me Peg for Peg Bundy.
Yeah.
So, hey, Peg.
Yeah, Rod Price.
Good guy.
Yep. So, anyways, can't say enough good about Rod, apparently.
Rod Price Army.
Yeah.
Rod Price fan club.
Okay. Here's a good question. And good question, Rick Knight. He spells his name Knight.
I know somebody who does that, respectfully.
What spells his name, Knight?
Yeah.
Oh.
Knight.
Okay. Cool. FEJ713. Did your father ever talk about storylines that he was watching on TV after he left the business and give his thoughts about why it was working or why it was not working on a guy who was being misused by the company? In parentheses, he says probably WCW.
Yeah, you're right.
And give his thoughts on what he would do or what he wouldn't do as a booker to get him over. So
we could do hours on this.
Yeah, I think we'll do a little bit of this now.
We could do an all-nighter on this.
And then we'll do, remember the WCW all-nighters?
We could do one like this.
So we'll come back to this one, but we'll do a little bit now. And when we need something desperately to talk about, we'll come back to it. So anyways, so did your dad ever talk about storylines he was watching on TV after he left the business?
Oh,
and give
just
us
guys
thoughts?
In general that he saw and said were being misused? Oh.
So, yeah.
Yikes. What's the first? I mean, we can talk about the first time he ever saw Triple H on TBS. He saw him and was like, "Who is this?" I said, "I think his name is Terror Rising." He goes, and he starts going like this because his wheels were turning his head. And then like later on that night, I'm sitting there next to him, and the show's already been over at 6:05, and Dad starts going into this program that he would want to do with H and Ricky Flair, and it was something about taking the name Nature Boy, saying he's watching tapes of Buddy Rogers, and he thinks the name Nature Boy would be great for him, and then Ricky was going to come out and shove him, and they were going to get into a pull apart. And then he was going to start using other guys' holds, and Ricky was going to come out and try to stop him. And Dad goes, we can also have Dusty out there doing commentary, and we can just start to heckle him and see if he don't come out and wrestle. He goes, we can even get a few out of Terry Funk. He goes, but Dad said, I would just tell the office, give me this young boy and give me Ricky Flair, and that's all I need. And Dad said, if I wasn't so old, I would be at TV next week, and I'd tell him, you're with me. Mm-hmm. That was just one. Also, Johnny B. Bad was another guy that he was very, very high on, and said, if the right way, this guy could be as big as the Macho Man. And then a guy like Van Hammer, who had the kind of crazy out there charisma like Dingo and Kerry Von Erich had, said you could do something with this. Like you could make him the third Freebird and have him start, when it's time to turn babyface, have him turn against Michael and Jimmy at the time. Then there was the last time, I think it would have been Kevin Nash's first appearance as Oz. He came in the ring and he took the mask off, and Dad said, this is a big, handsome, rugged guy. He goes, but I don't understand what's with the cone. And then when he turned
the cone, the hat.
And then this was like in late June 93, because the tape that Atlanta sent here was always like about 2 weeks behind for syndicated in 93. He was still Vinny Vegas, and he had said something to the camera, and Dad said, this guy's a trip. Dad said, this guy can draw money. Mm-hmm. And then the next week he shows up on TV as Sean's bodyguard. Dad goes, I'll be damned. Sean saw what I saw. And Scott Hall, when he showed up as the Diamond Stud, Dad goes, this is a very, very, very good look for this guy. Mm-hmm. I mean, he always was looking for things like that and angles and like guys you could, like a guy like Vader. He was like, why don't you book him with him? Or like when Dingo came back to New York in 96 and was working with Dustin, and was sitting in that director's chair with that hat on. Dad goes, see this? This is everything he is not. And the way he wanted to, he thought when they brought Brett to Atlanta.
Yeah. So
Dad was like, Brett walked down the aisle. Dad said, I worry about him here. Dad was like, they should just go ahead and just put the belt on him. Just say Hulk Hogan against Bret Hart. We know what happened the last place. We're going to make it right. Your first night here, you're going to get a title shot.
Yeah, another one like when they beat Goldberg.
Oh, yeah. That was like, and, people who are blamed for that, I know that, I think we know the story there, but, just because the guy's in the ring with you doesn't mean that he had anything to do with it, But there was other, there was so, you'd have to really sit down because there was so many things that he saw. That
like the Black Scorpion. He noticed that was getting over.
And I don't care what any of the internet marks think.
But do you know at what point? Go ahead.
Dad's mindset was, because I heard the voice. I said, who is that? Dad goes, that's Ole under the hood, and that's Ole's voice. And Dad said the stupid thing to do was make it Ricky Flair, because Ole's idea was whoever it is, it isn't. Now, had they really played their cards right and drug that thing out till 91 when Dingo came free, boom, could have grabbed him. But and then a guy like Sid Vicious, Dad was like, well, why is Sid wrestling Elegante and not wrestling the one-man gang in stretcher matches? That's something. I mean, just he would see things like this, and he would tell me, son, I don't look at it like I'm no longer involved, even though I'm not. I look at it like I still am. And Atlanta, WCW was something that he constantly would go, I can't believe that. How many times would we watch Clash or something like that, and Dad would go, oh, of a finish, or he would go, that left a lot to be desired. That was weak.
Yeah.
But then there was many times when Sean or one of those guys would be out there at the finish, Dad would go, beautiful.
Well.
So there's a lot more we could do with this. We will, too. We need to continue with this. Oh, that.
So, if you know this, let us know in the comments.